the one in which we visit an insane asylum. Woohoo! Good times to be had by all. Welcome to Supernatural First Watch Podcast, a rewatch podcast designed to be spoiler-free and enjoyed as if it's your first watch. I'm your host, Kimberly, a self-proclaimed sci-fi and fantasy nerd. Previously on the road, we actually returned back home to the hometown of Sam and Dean while they investigated a haunting at their former home, as they're still trying to desperately find Dad, and we find out that Dad knows where they are, knows they're looking, and is not actually ready to let them know this. So let's dive on into Asylum. The big picture overview is that Sam and Dean are going to investigate an abandoned sanitarium. And, of course, they're going to discover some ghosties. Something was not going on very well in the sanitarium, and they search the sanitarium to try and get rid of the ghost. So let's dive in deeper. As always, we have back to our previously scheduled programming of the Story So Far segment, and we know that they're searching for Dad. Then we hop on over to what's going on in the grand world before the brothers find out something is afoot. And we're at a Roosevelt Asylum in Rockford, Illinois, where two police officers are checking in on a noise disturbance at this locked up insane asylum. And through exposition, we find out it's really common for teenagers to dare each other to spend the night in the asylum. However, the story goes that if you do, the insane asylum patients will drive you crazy by morning, because that sounds like a fun time. Of course, we pass by the ominously framed boiler room, which makes me wonder, of course, what's in the boiler room. It seems to be a common theme that you never want to go into it. And I am still not entirely clear on what a boiler does for these big buildings, because don't we have heating and cooling nowadays? But the cops continue to search, and they find the kids hiding behind some sort of overturned table, but they're not exactly hiding from the cops. They're just kind of sitting there. They're waiting for the cops to find them, and they're like, oh, okay, now it's time for us to leave. Of course, the main guy goes outside after he rousts the teenagers, and his partner is still not there. He's about to call him on the radio. He doesn't get an answer. He turns around, and whoop, his partner is right behind him. Of course, that's an indicator something's not right. We follow home the rookie cop, and he's going back home. He's emptying his pockets, and his significant other, we're not sure if it's a wife or girlfriend at this point, is trying to get him to talk to her because they're clearly in the middle of a fight. In a scene that shocks absolutely no one who's ever seen a film like this before, he turns around and we cut to the outside where we get the muzzle flashes because he has decided to murder his girlfriend. We check back in on the brothers, and they are still looking for their dad. They have now stooped to calling around to weapons suppliers to try and find out where Dad might be, because obviously he still needs to buy bullets. They also mentioned that they were in contact with Caleb, Jefferson, and Pastor Jim. So Sam and Dean do have contacts in this world. They are not 100% on their own. Other people know what's up and are at least supplying the bullets. In a very weird moment, Dean misses, quote-unquote, a call on his cell phone, and he goes to check it, and it's actually a text message. Now, I'm not entirely sure why his phone is ringing for a text, but they're coordinates. And Dean realizes they must be from Dad, so of course they should hop on the road, but Sam's not 100% sold. He's still wanting to find Dad, but he's tired of going after hunts without any sort of explanation. After a short tiff, they do agree, though, they should probably just go and check it out. So they head on over to Rockford. Once they get there, they do a little sleuthing and find out, of course, about the insane asylum and realize that it's in John's journal, talking about a disappearance from actually 1972. After they quickly check out the asylum and don't find anything, because apparently during the day, that means that spirits can't come. There are only specific hours during the day that spirits can show up, which is good to know, and that explains why so many ghost stories and ghost TV shows happen at night. So they're trying to find out what might actually be haunting the asylum. After finding a nameplate with the name Ellicott, they determine that there is a descendant in town, and so Sam goes off to get some therapy. Sam is awkwardly trying to engage the therapist in hearing about the local history and what happened at the insane asylum, but of course he goes with the route of he's a history buff, so as a history buff he should actually know what happened in the insane asylum, and the psychiatrist is not here for it. He's like, look, I understand, this is your hour, however, I'll make you a deal. You give me an actual hour of therapy, and I'll tell you all you want to know about the insane asylum. Clearly, that is what happened, because he comes out with lots of information, and it begs the question, what on earth did Sam talk about inside his session? We may never know. So they realize that in 1964, the patients rioted in the insane asylum, killing the senior doctor, and the body was never found. So they have a starting point, and they head on back to the asylum, where once again we have a teenage couple who have decided that the perfect date idea is to break into an empty building. She's not here for it. She wants to turn around. She does not find this to be a good date idea because she has common sense, but he still wants to go exploring, and in fact leaves her behind so that he can go and explore with his flashlight. In some strange version of losing her logic, she decides not to leave, but sticks around and waits for him to come back. On the way, of course, we follow the guy who is in for some sort of world of trouble. His flashlight flickers. We see an outline of the girl in the doorway, and he assumes it's his girlfriend who's continued to follow him. And he gets a nice little kiss. Of course, then he hears his girlfriend's voice and completely freaks out because he's macking on a ghost. As we return to the brothers, now their EMF homemade meter is going completely bananas. And they're using their handy-dandy night vision setup to show all of the spirits wandering in the asylum. It's not just one, it's a whole bunch of them. The one that appears, they actually end up shooting with the shotgun full of rock salt, and it disappears. But they note that the spirits are not attacking them, which they find a little bit strange. When they run across her, she shows loyalty to the boyfriend who ditched her and says she doesn't want to leave because she wants to go find her boyfriend. So the brothers decide, well, they're sticking around, we might as well too. And instead of trying to get her out of the asylum, they go searching for her boyfriend, Gavin. When they split off, Sam finds Gavin pretty quickly, who discovers that he freaked out when he realized he was macking on a ghost and knocked himself out. Dean and the girl continue to peruse another section, and she's pulled into a room, and Dean cannot get in. He tries every method in the book, but he can't get the door open. Sam and Gavin meet back up with Dean while he's trying to open the door, and Sam realizes that the spirits are actually trying to communicate. Suddenly, the door does open again, and the spirit had whispered into her ear, room 137. So Dean goes to find the room, and in a wonderful horror trope, they split up once again so that bad things can happen. Sam tries to get the kids out, but finds out that all of the exits have been boarded up. They are not getting out of this asylum until something happens. He gives Kat her shotgun, and discovers that, yeah, she actually does know how to shoot. So now her boyfriend's the one freaked, but she's down to shoot some monsters. Dean, meanwhile, has found a hidden panel in the creepy room, and behind it found a whole bunch of books and documentation. So instead of taking them out of the asylum, he decides to settle in and read in the office of the creepy room. While Sam is convincing the teenagers that they will be safe enough, he gets a call on his cell phone from Dean that says he's in the basement. Now, of course, it's full of static, and it's in a room in which I really gotta wonder if there would be any self-service in the first place. But he heads on to the boiler room, which we got a glimpse of course, in the opener. And the girl is ready to defend them with a shotgun. Dean decides to return to the teenagers after he got some reading in, and almost gets a shotgun blast of rock salt to the face. Apparently, she does know what she's doing, But he finds out, of course, that Sam is now in the basement, and he goes to rescue his brother. When they meet up, Sam is not exactly interested in continuing the hunt, which, of course, is ringing alarm bells for Dean, but he tries to pretend that everything is fine. He feels the air of the hidden room and goes to explore, but, of course, Sam points a gun at Dean, and apparently Dean doesn't think he'll shoot. But then again, he gets shot, which actually blows him through into the room that he was feeling the air come through. Apparently, rock salt shotgun pellets to the chest don't kill you. They just hurt like a bitch. And now it's time for some more bloodletting conversations between the brothers. We've had something similar in Skin, where a creature claims to be connected to Dean and shares his dirty laundry. And now it looks like Sam is actually possessed by the spirit of Ellicott and starts ranting. He's angry at Dean. He's mad that they haven't been able to find their dad. And they decide, though, that it's all important to finish the hunt first. So Dean hands over his gun after being shot by the shotgun. But of course, Dean realizes that it's not a good idea to rearm his brother, and he's handed over an empty gun. He knocks him out very briefly, and then he tries to go and find the body of Ellicott. He searches the room and quickly realizes that one of the cabinets has a bit of hair sticking out of it, and as he prepares to salt and burn the ghost appears again and attacks Dean. However, this time he is not successful in trying to make everything feel better. Dean throws his Zippo onto the corpse, and the ghost burns up. In a very interesting special effects, the ghost seems to solidify first and then actually burst into flames. As they leave, even though we're not entirely clear as to how late they entered the asylum, it's daytime. Not only is it daytime, it's full day. It's not even dawn. And the girlfriend, in continuing her sense of good sense, says, you know what, we're breaking up. But of course they did get out, and Sam and Dean have a bit of a heart-to-heart, and Sam claims that he didn't mean any of it. And Dean, of course, doesn't really buy it per se, but lets the conversation go. The next morning, Dean's conked out when his phone rings, and Sam answers only to find out that it's Dad calling. Of course, that's where we end because this is the mid-season finale, and we don't know what's going to happen next with dear old Dad. So the local legend is that the insane asylum patients rioted in the asylum and killed their torturer. And now it's very fun for local teenagers to do a game of truth or dare, or to get kudos and brownie points by spending a night in the insane asylum. But the legend goes that if you spend the entire night there, the insane asylum patients will drive you nuts. Again, I guess this is what people find fun in Rockford, Illinois. That does not sound like a good time to me, but apparently it's so popular that two sets of teenagers break in 2 days after each other. Who are we this week? This week, they don't claim to be law enforcement. They claim to be from the Chicago Tribune. So they're doing a little bit of research on the local phenomena, and that's enough to get everyone to talk to them. Of course, Sam also then tries to claim that he's a local and a history buff in his therapy session, but that doesn't fly with the therapist, who says if he wants information about the asylum, he's actually got to do the therapy work. We have no new supernatural spirits except more ghosts, and apparently it is strange to have spirits and or ghosts hanging around the location of their death and have them not be angry. But apparently Ellicott is so bad that he was torturing them while alive, and he seems to have somehow found a way to torture them while dead. So they are super eager to get rid of him. So how do you kill it? Well, it is your regular salt and burn. For the second time, I believe, we see Dean salt and burn a body, and this time it is enough. He's not imbued in anywhere else. There are no other objects associated with him, so setting the bones on fire, apparently they don't need to go to ash. Just setting them on fire is enough to destroy the spirit. Technology in the new age. I already mentioned the fact that Dean's cell phone rings and comes through with a text message, which of course is a very strange thing. The only thing I know that your cell phone used to be able to do was at least make a little ding noise, but it usually wouldn't ring. But I could be misremembering because it has been 20 years since cell phones were in that flip phone stage. And of course, the boys are still using their handy-dandy shortcuts of the Walkman turned EMF reader and the really clunky options to use a night vision tool of some sort while hunting ghosts, because that's what you want to be hanging on to instead of both hands on the shotgun when you're hunting down creatures that can apparently possess you. And in an age before smartphones, the only type of flashlight you can bring into a dark building is an actual flashlight, which is prone to flickering and going out when surrounded by spirits. Of course, fast forward a couple of years and your smartphone could have a flashlight app and have no issues. Although I wonder if there is going to be any sort of issue with ghosts in the new technology age, and how can they affect newer cell phones. Who knows? I look forward to finding that out. So, the family business. This is another great episode for establishing what is going on in the world of the Winchesters. We open up with that text message, and Dean knows it's from their father and is gung-ho to follow the orders without any sort of explanation. This shows us exactly what's been going on while Sam's been away at school. Dean follows orders. Dad says this is where you go, and that's what they do. And of course, Dean comes at it from a perspective of, we're saving people. If Dad thinks this is a case and is important enough for us to actually go and check out, then we should do so. While as Sam is not actually as gung-ho, he doesn't like to follow Dad. He still wants to find Dad, but is still very much driven by the fact that he's looking to find their father to find out what happened to his girlfriend. I think it's still kind of up in the air if he actually wants to find their father, or if he's just looking for a way to find their dad so that he can get some answers. Also, we see a whole bunch of brotherly moments that imply that they have been pulling this scheme for quite some time, as the way that they get information is for one of them to approach the cop with a bad attitude and just trying to get the details, while Sam befriends him by throwing Dean out of the bar and then getting the goods within a few minutes. So this is rather smooth. It's really intriguing to see, but it's also clear they've probably done something like this numerous times before. This is not their first rodeo, and they're very good at reading people because it does also take a very interesting understanding of human emotion and human how people will react in certain situations, to realize that the cop's not going to talk to them, but will talk to a guy who saves him from somebody bothering him in a bar. Also, of course, we have the scene where Sam is in therapy, and he briefly mentions that he's on a road trip with his brother, but not entirely in love with what's going on. And while he really wants the information, the therapist, of course, says no, he needs to do the therapy before he can actually get the information. And he says, so tell me how you really feel about this road trip with your brother. Off of Sam's look, we cut to when Sam leaves and Dean is annoyed because he was clearly in there for a while. So this kind of implies to me that he stayed for the full hour. And I would be intrigued to know what exactly was Sam sharing with a therapist that's not going to reveal the supernatural, but was good enough for him to get that kind of detailed information from a guy whose father has obviously a very bad local reputation because he was the local leader of the insane asylum, whose practices were so bad that the inmates rebelled and then shut down the asylum in the first place. We get a lot of arguing as well throughout this episode about their different approaches to how they want to address the search for their dad. And of course, this is once again an instance of the supernatural baddies play into the relationship, and you have to wonder, what is the ghost? What is the ghost's agenda? And what is Sam's actual feelings around Dean? Because he goes off on him. He also shoots him with a shotgun. He claims that he has overcome the process and is no longer angry. And Dean in a deep understanding of his brother and who he is, but also in how ghosts work, hands over an empty gun, and is not surprised when Sam tries to shoot. So it's very interesting to see, again, like, this is another kind of heart-to-heart that we have between the brothers, but it's not really them. We saw one earlier with the skinwalker, or the shapeshifter, and claiming what Dean felt about the situation where Sam had left in order to go to college. And now we have Sam ranting and raving at Dean about him blindly following orders and about, wanting to go back to his normal life. But once again, we're not 100% sure what is Sam and what is Dean. Obviously, Sam remembers the conversation because he knows to approach Dean and say he's sorry and didn't mean what he said, but you can tell from Dean's face that he is not entirely 100% sure that Sam wasn't actually feeding the ghost those lines. Again, it brings in a huge layer of nuance. Is the ghost just trying to break up the relationship so that it can continue wreaking havoc? Is it Sam who is informing the ghost? Is it the ghost informing Sam? And how much will Dean want to put into this effort of rebuilding the relationship with his brother? However, even with the conversation they have about their father and whether or not they should follow it, they do get in the car and drive off to Rockford, Illinois. There's also a whole bunch of call-outs here. I don't have a section for this, but there's a whole bunch of call-outs to other ghost shows and ghost medium. We talk about The Sixth Sense, Dean saying, let me know if you see any dead people. We talk about Who's the Hotter Psychic, Patricia Arquette or Jennifer Love Hewitt, which are two shows around people who can talk to ghosts. We talk about the Amityville Horror, which again is about an insane asylum and some ghosts. So we have a whole lot of call-outs to other media that most people will have seen in terms of ghosts and insane asylums, which I think is just kind of fun. So it's trope-tastic. Going back to all of the call-outs to ghosts and insane asylum themed opportunities. There are so many things that when watching just a normal horror film, this is when you scream, right? As I said at the beginning, the shot of the boiler room, everything bad happens in the boiler room. That's where everyone gets attacked and you know it. So of course they have to go in. There's a secret room in a secret room. That's pretty common too. I love that there's a draft from the secret room when, the insane asylum has been shuttered for like 40 years. So where is this draft coming from? Is there AC pumping through this building? I can't understand why there would be a draft because the wind is not necessarily going to go through the extra room because it's completely walled in. We also have a reversal of a couple of tropes here. Number one being that Kat is the one who knows how to shoot. Sam, you're going to assume that neither of them know how to shoot or that the man will know how to shoot in the relationship. But Kat's like, yep, no, I know how to shoot a shotgun. And now, even though Gavin was the one who wanted to really explore and play in the insane asylum and Kat wanted to leave, Gavin's the one who's clearly too freaked out now and wants to leave, and Kat is pretty apropos. She's like, okay, I understand this is what's going on, give me the shotgun. And in a stunning showcase that you don't usually see for your protagonist, they almost get shot by the victim because she can't actually shoot a shotgun, which I found really entertaining and fun. Of course, also we have teenagers doing stupid teenager things, which results in hauntings getting you. That's pretty common as well in a lot of horror films. And we have that opening sequence as well with the cop who just turns around and shoots his wife. And again, something's wrong immediately because he's got a nosebleed. He shows up from nowhere, and it's that idea of obviously something off in his mannerisms, which, kudos to the actor, because you can tell just from the 30 seconds we saw him before to when he is possessed that he's clearly not moving like himself. So that's always really interesting as well. We also have a bit of an inversion when Dean hands over the gun after he's been shot by his brother, possessed by the spirit. In a lot of other shows, it would be he'd hand over a loaded gun. Because, of course, he believes that his brother is really overcome the creature. But in this instance, Dean's like, I'm not that stupid. And he hands over an empty gun and knocks out his brother in time to burn the body. So a lot of regular tropes that you would see in so many different places, but also a couple of inversions, including the fact that the spirits in general are not violent and are actually trying to help them get rid of Ellicott, who seems to have been holding the other spirits there. So it's a fun little reverse of a lot of tropes in this episode, but of course there's plenty. And while watching this episode as well, I was kind of like, oh, I know what's about to happen. Oh, I know what's about to happen, and was very rarely surprised. The body count officially in this episode is only 2, and that is the cop and his girlfriend from the beginning of the episode. The teenagers do not die. Of course, Ellicott dies, but he died years ago, so I'm no longer considering the ghosts dying as a body count. And nobody else ends up getting hurt, and Gavin and Kat do make it out alive. So, in conclusion, another solid episode, a lot of predictable moments, but also a lot of character building and really intriguing questions that have been brought up through this process. And of course, it's a perfect season finale ender for the mid-season, because of course now the brothers for 10 episodes have been searching for their father. Just one episode ago, we realized their father could be found and is not approaching them, but now he's contacted them directly. First at the beginning of the episode, just with a text message and coordinates, and then at the end of the episode, he actually calls. And of course, now we're like, all right, what's going to happen next? Don't know. You got to wait 4 months. Or you can wait until next week for this episode, or you can wait until Netflix waits the 3 seconds to load your next episode, right? So a couple of questions that come up for me as we wrap up Asylum. Number one is, I really want to know, what did Sam talk about in relation to his brother with the therapist? And did it help? Or did Sam take this opportunity to finally talk through the grief of losing his girlfriend? He has been having nightmares about her, and then he had some nightmares about their house and has no explanation about that. So did he take the opportunity to actually get some solace and help and support around the death of his girlfriend? I would love to know if that is something that has happened. Also, of course, why is Dad reaching out now? In the last episode, we saw that he needed to know the truth first. So in just the space of a couple of days, we assume he now knows the truth. And so what is that truth? What truth is it? And why is needing to know this truth preventing him from actually talking to his sons prior to now? We also find out that they have been together and hunting for 6 months at this time. So that gives us a bit of a timeline as to how long they've been together and why Sam is getting increasingly frustrated about the fact that they can't find their father. Other questions as well are, does Sam have festering anger at Dean? Will Dean forgive their brother for being angry with him, or does he still have anger at his brother for leaving in the first place? They are clearly hunting the good hunt together. So what kind of tension is going to come from that? And a really big question for me is, why does Dean follow their father's orders so clearly? Like, he has no questions. He's just like, yep, of course, I'm going to follow it. I'm going to follow it. And he's all about, we got coordinates, we have to do it. And it's not even a second question for him, which is interesting because, again, he, last episode, was so upset and practically begging his father to come and help them out when they were back in their hometown and dealing with the haunting of their old house. And we got to assume he never heard from them. He never heard from him. He never got acknowledgement. And it was a complete change from what we've seen of the character so far, where he's very much on top of things. He doesn't show emotions. He, in fact, even in this episode, said something along the lines of, no more chick flick moments. But he was incredibly upset, and his father did not come through. So I gotta wonder, what kind of upbringing and what kind of history does Dean have with his father? What has he been doing since Sam left the fold to go to school? because he's still very much, I'll follow my father's rules anywhere. And that makes me wonder, like, what caused that, and is there a reason, right? Does he know more maybe about what's going on or why their father disappeared, I wonder, and he just knows that any mission they get is incredibly important. Also, of course, playing into the trope, anything and everything that you need to know is inside that journal, right? They needed a picture of the Wendigo, it was there. They got sent the coordinates from their father to Rockford, but the only reason they knew where to start was because of the mention in the journal. So I'd like to see the journal step back a little bit from being the Due Machina that it is right now, and have them explore things that aren't as straightforward and also aren't in the journal, right? So far, many of the monsters they've faced, it's been pretty clear they've had a starting point, but they are still actively, of course, looking for cases, and we see that, they're still doing the research thing, which I find fun. So in conclusion, Asylum is actually a really great episode. It does have a lot of predictable moments, but overall, it does a lot, I feel, to move the plot forward. We learn a little bit more about the family dynamics in the Winchester family. We face a baddie, and we face a baddie in which, it's an area of gray, and they do get rid of it, but then the good spirits, I don't think they do anything against them, and we now know that Dad's about to reach out to the Winchester brothers, and what's going to happen from there? It's a really big question. So, up next, we will be back on the road in the episode Scarecrow. And again, this is the mid-season finale. I am not taking a break, but those who watched this originally had to wait months to find out what their father had to share with them. So I'm eager to see exactly what happens next in the next episode with the conversation with their father. So you are watching the you're listening to Supernatural First Watch podcast. Don't miss out on future episodes. Be sure to subscribe to the show in your podcast player of choice, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcast, and YouTube Podcasts. If you have opinions, theories, or comments to share about the road so far that are spoiler-free, send in your thoughts at the email in the show notes. And if you want to help support the podcast, get early access to the episodes and fun behind-the-scene spoilerific deep dives, be sure to check out our Patreon. I will see you on the road again in Scarecrow.